Hey everyone, Pony Lover 1989 here, and today I'm going to tell you a history about video game piracy and why it's against the law. It's on Wikipedia. Video game piracy is an unauthorized copying and distributing of the video game software and is a form of copyright infringement and also offends the law. It is often cited as a major problem that the video game publishers face when distributing their products. Due to the ease of being able to distribute games for free via torrenting or websites, often direct download links, the right holders generally attempt to counter piracy of their products by enforcing the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, though this has never been totally successful. Digital distribution of pirated games had historically occurred on the bulletin board systems, or BBS, and more recently via decentralized peer-to-peer torrenting. In terms of physical distribution, Taiwan, China, and Malaysia were known for major manufacturing and distribution centers for pirated game copies, while Hong Kong and Singapore are major importers. Here's the history and culture. As personal computer rose to the prominence in the mid to late 1970s, so too did the tendency to copy video games onto floppy disks and cassette tapes, and shared pirated copies by hand. Piracy networks could be traced back in the mid-80s with infrastructure changes resulting from the Bell system breakup serving as a major catalyst. Video game trading circles began to emerge in the years following, with networks of computers connected via modem to long-distance telephone lines, transmitting the contents of floppy disks. These trading circles became colloquially known as the Juarez scene, with the term Juarez or Juarez being an informal bastardization of software. In the 1980s, crack intros began appearing on pirated games. Preceding the booting of the actual game, these windows could contain the monikers of those who created a pirated copy, along with any messages they wanted to add. Beginning as a simple text, the presentation of these crack intros gradually grew more complex, with window featuring GIFs, music, and colorful designs. With the rise of the bulletin board systems, or BBS, throughout the 80s and the 1990s, the sharing of pirated video games took a centralized form. By connecting personal computers to telephone modems and dialing the number of a dedicated server, members of the Juarez scene could share their copies of video games. Furthermore, because this system preceded the rise of the consumer-level internet, it could go relatively unnoticed. However, with the rise to the peer-to-peer torrenting, and notably with the release of BitTorrent in 2001, the BBS format of video game piracy began to decline. Nowadays, torrenting pirated games remains a popular choice among those who engage in piracy. Efforts to thwart illegal torrenting have historically failed because of its decentralized nature. It makes it effectively impossible to totally dismantle. The anti-piracy measures. The use of the copy protection have been a commonplace throughout the history of video games. Early copy protection measures for the video games include lens lock, code wheels, and special instructions that would require the player to own the manual. Several early copy protection measures have been criticized for both their effectiveness at preventing the piracy and their inconvenience to the player. One of the most typical means of copy protection is to assign a serial key to each legitimate copy of the game, so that it can only be activated by entering the serial. However, this is often circumvented via software cracking or through the use of keygen. More recent attempts to hinder piracy have included digital rights management tools. A form of this is the sales of games on digital distribution platforms such as Epic Games Stores, Blizzard's Battle.net, and Steam. Steam offers priority features such as the accelerated downloads, cloud saves, automatic patching, and achievements that pirated copies do not have. The purpose of these features is to make a piracy look less attractable and insensitivized the legitimate purchase of games. Gabe Newell, creator of Steam, had stated that creating a service value discourages piracy more than adding an additional DRM. Some games, such as Grand Theft Auto 4, use a DRM that negatively alters gameplay if it detects a game that it is an illegal copy. In GTA 4's case, it disables the brakes on the cars, gives the camera an amplified drunk effect, making the gameplay much harder, thus creating an incentive to legitimately purchase the game. Sometimes games require online authentication or have always-on DRM. A notable incident concerning always-on DRM took place in 2021. Surrounding the Windows release of Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time. Without a constant internet connection, the game's DRM disallows any play at all, even the single player, which naturally drew ire. However, the Warba scene cracked this DRM feature almost immediately. A cracked version of Crash Bandicoot 4 stripped of this DRM began circulating online just one day after its official release date. Emulation and piracy. Historically, game companies have blamed video game emulators for piracy, despite the fact that anyone can create their own ROM image from the original media. Concerning this demonetization of emulators, and video game historian Frank Cifaldi attributed it to the Kinectix virtual game system. Released in 1999, a commercial emulator enabled the play of Sony PlayStation games on Macintosh computers. However, it was easily cracked by the hackers to play pirated ISO images of PlayStation games, leading to a lawsuit from Sony. Companies contributed to fear that the emulators would encourage piracy. This had created a long-running debate over emulation, since many out-of-print video games can only be played via ROM, making emulators the only replacement for a defunct video game console. Additionally, modern remasters and remakes can significantly alter the game, sometimes in a manner that changes the entire gameplay experience. For example, Crash Bandicoot N. Sane Trilogy had a rewritten physics engine, requiring the players to make more precise jumps. Such gameplay changes give the importance to emulators, which may be able to run the original game. Some of the companies still consider emulators copyright infringement. In 2017, Atlas attempted to take down the Patreon page for PlayStation 3 emulator RPC S3, arguing that the ability to play Persona 5 on it made it an illegal software. However, Patreon disagreed with the company's stance and allowed the page to remain as long as references to Persona 5 were removed. Furthermore, Nintendo had taken decisive action against emulation of its games in recent years. In 2018, the company sued a handful of large ROM sites, forcing them to remove all the ROMs of their older console games for what they call brazen and mass-scale infringement of Nintendo's intellectual property rights. The distribution of copied ROM files online is illegal, but this move by Nintendo was interpreted by the emulation scene as an attack on the emulation of older games. In November 2020, Nintendo issued a cease and desist order to the Big House, an annual Smash Bros. Tournament. The Big House ran Super Smash Bros. Games on Dolphin emulator, and it was the addition of the mod Slippy, which enabled online play, that caught Nintendo's attention. Despite long-standing criticism of emulators in the game industry, companies themselves have used emulation to run commercial games. Nintendo operated Virtual Console, which allowed people to buy and play certain games via emulation. In 2017, the PlayStation 4 was found to contain a functioning internal PSP emulator. Hackers discovered that Parappa the Rapper Remaster was actually the 2007 PSP version, running with upscaled textures. The emulator was later reverse engineered and used to play other PSP games. Additionally, Microsoft's Xbox One console uses a proprietary emulator in order to play games released for the original Xbox and Xbox 360. Console modding and piracy. Modded consoles have been cited as an avenue for video game piracy, and both by allowing unauthorized copies to be played and by circumventing DRM. Legal homebrew video games and backup copies can be played on modified systems, but the argument of piracy remains. A notable example of a console modding is the original Microsoft Xbox, of which the tutorials still exist to this day. By introducing softmod installation files via one of their 4 controller ports, players could overhaul the system UI, install and play games directly off the internal hard disk drive, and even play TV shows and movies on the console. Some softmods even re-enable the online play on the original Xbox. Despite the first incarnation of Xbox Live having shut down in 2010, a handful of hard mod techniques will also exist on the original Xbox, enabling the hardware additions and upgrades to non-stock components. Companies such as Nintendo have coordinated with law enforcement agencies to track down and seize mod chips for their consoles, such as 2007 Operation Tangle Web. The same year, Nintendo also began a crackdown against merchants of the R4 flash cartridges, which could be used to play pirated games on a DS. In 2009, the device was declared illegal to sell or import in Japan, among other countries. In 2018, a man was arrested in the UK for illegally running a Switch modding operation out of his house. Furthermore, in 2022, prominent members of the hacking group Team Executor were arrested and indicted by the Department of Justice. The indictment detailed that their creation of modded consoles, which were designed to circumvention devices that had the purpose of allowing users to play pirated games. Okay, moving on to the real anti-piracy measures. When you're playing a pirated version of Earthbound and you're about to head and you're about to face the final boss Gigas, all of a sudden the textures and the graphics start to mess up, and it's all of a sudden deletes your save file. And another real anti-piracy measure: if you're playing a pirated version of Ocarina of Time, adult Zelda's hair gets messed up at the top, and before the final battle with Ganondorf and trying to escape the collapsing tower, Zelda uses her magic to open these gates. But one of the gates did not open. She went through them, and you're stuck in there with no purpose of leading the way out. And if you're playing a pirated version of Spyro Year of the Dragon, you're on the first level of the game, and you talk to Zoe, and she says, I'm sorry, Spyro, but you seem to be playing a hacked version of this game. This may be an illegal copy. Since the copy has been modified, you'll experience problems which would not occur in a legal copy. So yeah, this is all I can tell you about video game piracy and why it offends the copyright law. Remember, they are against the law, and if you ever pirate a game, you could go to jail for life for 5 years and with a fee of a lot of money. So remember, buy the actual copy of the video game and do not be a pirate. So, do you like how I tell you about this? And do you understand any of this? You gotta remember, do not pirate video games or you could be going to jail. Or destroy the pirated version, or you will never be found out. So, do you want me to watch and react to the anti-piracy screens? Some that are real and some that are fan-made. Some that are made by Cheese and some that are made by Beta Mario and they're fan-made. If you like me to watch and react to these, comment down below. Anyway, this is Pody Lover. See ya!